Welcome to the Moms Who Know podcast. I'm your host, Chanel Nielsen, and to start off today, I want to ask you, do you have a morning routine? I hope that your morning routine is awesome and you're waking up every day getting things done that are important to you and including some self-care in there. Really starting off the day by taking care of you is huge because it sets you up for a day that's so much better and you're better able to take care of your family. So if you need some ideas to get going on that morning routine, go to momswhoknowpodcast.com and right there on the homepage is a link to my big list of ideas for your morning routine. And this is going to help you to jumpstart your self-care morning routine every single day. So momswhoknowpodcast.com, right there on the homepage, you can get that free download. So today's podcast is actually a podcast that was never supposed to happen. It started off with a mistake, and I'll tell you how it went. Last week on Monday when my episode came out, I checked my stats at about 10 in the morning and I looked to see how many listens I had and I thought, wow, this is amazing. Today's going great. I think this is going to be a record number of listens in one day. Well, a little more time went on and I looked at my podcast and realized that 2 podcasts had come out on that Monday instead of the one that was supposed to come out. So that is why there were so many downloads in that one day. And thank you for those of you who listened to both in the same day, of which there were many of you. So thank you. The podcast with April Burzay was supposed to come out today, but accidentally went out last Monday. So I thought about what to do, and what I decided that I wanted to do is kind of a follow-up to that conversation with April. And the reason why I wanted to do this is because of some things that happened after that conversation and how they affected me. And so I want to share this experience with you and hope that there's some application and that you are able to learn from this experience that I had. So I've been doing the podcast for a while now, and it's usually, in fact, I don't think I've ever had as long of a conversation with anyone as I did with April after our call. So when we got off of the podcast and quit recording, I felt like I wanted to know more about what she did. And so I asked her about her business and how she coached people and how she helped people. And she told me a little bit more, and then she said, well, do you have time right now for a call and to find out more about you? And so we spent about the next hour, maybe longer, on the phone together talking about my business and what I've done with it and where I want to go with it, and really diving a little bit deeper into some of my goals. And this conversation actually brought me to tears a couple of times. And she just was able to say some things that I needed, and she really understood and could see clearly the things that maybe I'm not seeing so well, but when she said them, I knew that that was right and that that was what I needed to hear, and I was just kind of amazed by this connection and the insights that she had. Now, if you remember on that call last week on the podcast, she talked about her own journey and how she was really struggling, and she knew that she needed to hire a coach, and she knew she needed to pay that money, even though that was money that they didn't have. She needed to do that to help to increase her worth and kind of to show herself that she was worth it. Now, she has a program, and she told me a little about that, and she asked for a decision whether I was going to join her program or not, and she gave me 2 days to make that decision, and then we decided I would report back and let her know if that was something I was going to do or not. So I got off the phone, and I was really conflicted. Her program is not cheap. It is a lot of money, and a part of me felt like this might be it for me, but a part of me was so scared. And I talked to James about it, and wanted to know his feedback. And he was actually supportive, even though it was a huge amount of money for us. And he said, you know what? I think that if this is what you feel like you need to do, then that's okay with me. You can do it. And I spent this 2 days just going back and forth, back and forth. Is this something that I want to do? Can I do it? Can I spend this money to further my goals and my dreams when, this is actually money set aside for our family and our savings? So I wasn't sure what to do, and the deadline was approaching, and I had told her that on Friday I would give her an answer. So Friday morning, I left her a message and I said, you know what? I don't think I'm going to do it. I decided no. And immediately after I made that decision, I felt super calm. And I thought, okay, well, then I think I made the right decision. But that calmness did not last. And I was just plagued by doubt and fear and this thought of that I had missed an opportunity to grow and to develop, and I was too scared to take this next step. And so that calm just didn't last, and I just felt very uneasy all through the rest of that day. Now, later that day, April posted on her Facebook page, not anything to me personally, but she posted about women being afraid to take the next step. And it felt like it was written to me. And I answered that post and I said, was this for me? And she just said something like, I know my ideal client. I know who my ideal client is. And we got into a conversation again, and she ended up calling me, and we talked, and I knew when I was talking to her, I just knew I needed to do this. It was such a big, scary investment for me to make, but I knew I needed to do this, and got off the phone with her, double checked with James that it was still okay with him. He said yes, and so I went for it. And after telling her yes, not only did I feel calm again, the fear was gone. I had so much fear around doing this and spending this money and making this jump. And yet after I went forward, all the fear was gone. And I just felt that I was doing exactly what I needed to do. Now, I really think that the fear came because this is something super uncomfortable. Growth is uncomfortable, and this experience is something that is really going to help me grow, and that is going to help me in a lot of ways. And I'll tell you, so some of the things that are uncomfortable about working with April and about what I'm doing is, for one thing, the money. Putting that kind of investment into anything is a big deal for me, and it's scary for me, and it's not something that I've really done. Pretty much everything I've done, whether that is, a preschool or running this podcast or anything I do on a really small budget. I am great at, stretching my dollars, and spending a lot of money is uncomfortable for me. And yet that was part of where the growth comes in here. That leap of faith that it's worth it for me and that I'm going to get the value out of that investment. So that was a big one. Physically, this was uncomfortable because part of this program includes kind of like a boot camp style exercise. I watched the video of this and it looks like these people are on Biggest Loser, except they're not. They're not needing to lose weight, but you know how they go through those rigorous and terrible workouts on that show. That's what this is like. They have this really intense day to kind of push you to your limits physically. And that was an impediment for me because even though I really care a lot about fitness and health, I also know that my body likes yoga and walking and slow and gentle movement. And some of the things that I saw them doing are not slow and gentle movement. So that felt uncomfortable for me. I didn't want to be pushed outside of my physical comfort zone because I feel like I know what works for my body and I know that I want to be comfortable. So that was another one. However, I also know that growth comes from being uncomfortable. So I will be pushed to my physical limits, and because of that, I will grow. Probably the biggest way that this training is uncomfortable for me is the emotional component. And what already I already know that it's asking me to really look inward and to find those places in me that need improvement and to get really aware of where I need to change in my life. And that's uncomfortable. It's so easy to go along and think that we're doing good enough and everything is fine. And to actually make that growth, we need to see where we need to change. And that can be uncomfortable for a lot of us. I know it is for me. And so it's easy to want to just put your blinders on and feel like everything is good enough. So that's another reason why I think I was hesitant to make this plunge and go forward with this training, because I knew that that would be required of me. So I want to encourage you to step into the discomfort of growth and to recognize that growth is uncomfortable, that when we are making changes in our lives, it's not going to feel comfortable. When we have big goals, it's going to be scary. And when we want to make changes, it's going to be uncomfortable. And I think that with a podcast like this, it can be easy to kind of miss the application and to think, oh, well, Chanel is doing this whole business thing and podcast, and I'm not doing that. So this doesn't really apply to me. But yes, it does apply to you. And how you put it into practice might look really, really different. But I think that there is a need for all of us to step into the discomfort so we can grow. And that might be with our relationships, looking into what needs to change in our relationships to make those stronger, what things we're kind of pushing under the carpet or not acknowledging or not working through that are bringing us apart from the people that we want to be close to. Discomfort in growing can come from our physical body. So we might not be willing to push ourselves to the next level, to work a little bit harder, which is something that I mentioned with myself earlier. We might just be comfortable where we're at. And so if we want that growth, if we want that change, then it's going to involve a little bit of discomfort. And the same can be true in all aspects of our lives. So whether that's learning something new or growing stronger spiritually, whatever it is, the takeaway is that the growth is going to be uncomfortable. And that if you have that little bit of discomfort, you can know that you are growing and you're moving to that next level. So I would encourage you to just look at where you're at and that place in what I've said. If something kind of pricks you, I guess, and you feel that idea that maybe I need to grow in this area, but it feels uncomfortable, instead of turning away from that, to turn into it and to see what you can do to grow and to develop and to bring yourself to where you need to be. So thank you again for listening to the Moms Who Know podcast. I'm so grateful that you guys are here. I'm grateful that you're sharing and everything that you do to help me grow the podcast. Thank you, and I'll see you all next week on Moms Who Know.